Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we are gonna discover what bothers many beginners in the chess world. In this video we are gonna tell you about 5 of the most common mistakes beginners are met with and, most importantly, how to avoid them. Firstly, I'd like to thicken the plot. I asked my newbie friend, you will see his chess.com and the chess profiles on the screen right now, to play 3 games, and me, a person with 10 years of experience in chess, here are my profiles by the way, analyzed them and found some ever so characteristic mistakes for his level that we are going to show you and explain how to combat. We are gonna review everything in order, so let's begin with game number 1. Worth mentioning, we are gonna review mistakes on both ends, both white and black. So let us begin. d4 e6, knight c3 d5, bishop f4, bishop b4, queen d3, knight f6, a3, bishop c3, queen captures c3, knight a6, and hereby begins the parade of mistakes and misery. As the great chess player Zigbert Tarash once said, a knight on the rim is dim. Yes, you could say there are some opening schemes involving the rim knight, but there are two big buts. Firstly, as stated earlier, low ELO players are not obligated, and in my opinion, not even should not, know opening theory. Second, in such variations, the edge of the board is but a temporary outpost for the knight. That means that soon enough it will move to a much more favorable place. But in this instance, the knight is literally stuck on a6. It cannot move to the c5 nor b4 squares, and turning back just loses momentum and is a bad idea overall. The whites are also making an inaccuracy here. Instead of attacking the knight with e3 and offering blacks a choice, either to lose tempo or to get doubled pawns, they give up this beautiful opportunity and perform a long castle. Now, c5, realizing that the knight on a6 is stupid and trying to move it to c7. The idea ain't bad as of itself, but the implementation of it is quite underwhelming. Instead of a calm pawn to c6, the blacks rather playing c5, just blundering a pawn. So yeah, now dc, knight e4, just blundering a pawn on g7, queen e3, and the opponent just could not see it. Knight captures c5, an attempt to win back a pawn that just loses the knight, with a simple yet elegant move f3. And the knight on e4, defending his comrade on c5, is just obligated to retreat. But instead, the whites just play knight h3. The opponent also decides to develop his knight on the edge of the world. h6, blundering the same tactic involving a knight loss. And finally, the elephant in the room, a brilliant move. Queen captures c5. After knight captures c5, the whites surrendered. So let's sum up the mistakes. First, knight on the rim. Second, blind game according to your game plan, ignoring the opponent's moves and mistakes. And, well, the third is blatant blunders. Just blundering. We will sort out these mistakes in the end of the video, so make sure to hang around. For now, let's move on to the game number 2. So, game number 2. Here my friend is playing white. It starts with e4, c6, knight f3, d5, ed, cd, bishop b5 check, knight c6, bishop captures c6, bc, short castle, bishop g4, d4, takes, e6, knight c3, queen b6, bishop e3. Well, yes, this is played in high elo. For new players, it typically results in blundering a pawn on b2. Knight a4, queen takes, knight c5, bishop takes, dc, knight f6, bishop f4. Blunders a pawn on c5. Queen takes c5, rook a c1, queen b6, queen a3, h6, Queen d6, knight e4. It blunders upon queen takes c6, queen takes c6, rook takes c6, short castle, f3, knight d2. Blunders a knight. Bishop captures, g5, f4, f6, blundering the e6 pawn, g3, but the white fumbles back, gf, king g7, f5. Neither white nor black wanna see the e6 pawn, e5, rook f3, e4, rook g3, king h8, and a beautiful finishing combination starting with bishop c3, rook a8, rook takes, king h7, rook g7 check, king h8, rook d7, winning a rook. At that point the blacks have resigned. This game had no positional mistakes as such, but rather a lot of blunders. Now let's move on to the third and final game. And finally, the third game. My friend is playing white again. e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, c3, g6, d4, cd, takes, bishop g7, takes, bc, bishop c4, d6, short castle, e5, knight d2. It is being played in relatively high elo, but for beginners I strongly advise against playing one piece 2 times in an opening. It would also be better to develop a bishop first instead of a knight, for the knight is now obstructing the bishop's diagonal. Knight e7, b4, short castle, knight f3, bishop b7, bishop g5, d5. A much durable decision for the elo, as it requires very good calculation. Bishop takes, queen takes, ed, e4, d6, queen d7, rook c1. It just blunders a knight. ef. And from this point onward, the game is pretty much lost for white, as they have such a huge disadvantage. Let's sum up the third game. First, don't use the same piece several times in an opening. Second, support piece harmony and composition. And third, blunders, and blunders, over and over again. After analyzing the 3 previous games, we can extract 5 constant mistakes and 1 advice. First mistake: developing a knight on the edge of the board. In some cases this concerns not only the knight, but as a mistake and its solution we are going to only be regarding the knight. So, to solve this problem, first of all, you should not be developing the knight on the edge voluntarily. Second, you should not be obstructing the knights or other pieces squares, so they have a way to maneuver and develop properly. Second mistake: beginners very often do not take their opponent's moves and or plans into consideration, thinking only about their own. Well, then how to solve it? My childhood coach told me this method. It lies in your actions sequence, and the sequence should be such. Your opponent has made his move. First, write the move down. Second, think about why they made such a move. Third, come up with an antidote to the opponent's idea. Fourth, come up with your next action. Fifth, make your move. Sixth, write the move down. Third mistake: simply blundering. Yes, just blundering. Blunders happen even on the highest level. The difference is in frequency. What differentiates a good and a bad player is how often they blunder big time. So, how does one blunder less? The solution is very simple: solving puzzles. The more puzzles you solve, the more attentive and aware of the similar positions you become. One could also benefit greatly from focusing more and paying attention, as mentioned in the second mistake. Fourth mistake. It's more of an advice than a mistake, really. You shouldn't use difficult tactical variations. As an example, you can just blatantly miscalculate with the variation and lose the game altogether. But that does not mean you should never learn difficult tactical combinations. Just leave it for when you have developed good fundamental understanding of the game. And now, the fifth and final mistake: piece disharmony. It is partially linked to my point about the knight, but it is not the same. Piece disharmony occurs on two occasions. First occasion: moving one piece two or more times. It breaks one of the fundamental opening rules and stunts other pieces' development tempo. Second occasion: one piece obstructs the other. It blocks the development and functionality of the set piece. Try developing your pieces on different sides of the board, controlling more space and not bothering each other. This was mentioned earlier, but I would like to mention it again, considering its importance. Okay, so it's your boy Oleg, the editor and translator of the video. We have put very much effort into making the video, translating it and editing it. So guys, make sure to subscribe or leave a comment with ideas on how to improve and what to make next. Yes, we've both put a lot of effort into making this, so hope you enjoyed the content. Peace.